we are going to talk about top communication mistakes and the keys to fixing them today. And I'm joined by Stephen J. Manning.
Welcome to the Build Business Acumen podcast, where we deliver practical knowledge and powerful guidance. Here is your futuristic host, Nathaniel Skula,
who is an expert communicator. He's one of the founding people who were involved with email, and he's been in business for 50 years. And so he is no stranger to communication and making it work and how to fix it when it goes wrong. So, Steve, lovely to see you again. I'm looking forward to this. It's an exciting conversation, this one.
Good morning, Nathaniel. Great to see you. Great topic.
Super. So what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that people make with communication?
Interesting. How many, how big, how often, in as much as something we do all day long, one way or another, or at least we try to do well one way or another. I think, first of all, the raging discussion is always about how much communication is enough. World wars are starting over lack of communication or too much. Marriages break up in the millions every day because one partner says to the other, well, you're not communicating with me. Whereas the other partner says, you're taking a pound of flesh off of me every day. You're being unnecessarily hurtful. Business deals fall apart as a matter of inadequate communication or often just too much communication. The data flow is just as spectacular in just amount and speed, and people fall into traps on that as they communicate. We have this God-given right to use this little $32 Apple keyboard, and we just love hitting that return button, the send button. One of the great inventions of all time in communications is the delay option on sending email. Anybody who disables that is just much smarter than I am, and certainly, in my opinion, reckless. In my background, we probably caused the deployment of 1 trillion emails. We kind of created the email vertical, the commercial email vertical back in the dark ages. I certainly communicate a great deal with a lot of people around the world. Email, of course, is de rigueur. And as thoughtful as I'd like to be, to not have that momentary stopgap. Are you sure you want to send this? What an incredible trap to disable that. How many times have you and I and everyone sent the email and say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. It's exactly the same thing when you communicate verbally. You go into a meeting, you go into a negotiation, you're going to present your case or fight your case, and then you walk away saying, I wish I would have said that. I should never have said that. Now, a topic for another day, I actually teach something called an alter ego method, which is designed to get your brain ahead of your mouth. So you don't walk away saying, I wish I would have said that, or I shouldn't have said that. It gives you an opportunity to get ahead, so you do say those things you planned. Now, the number one thing, of course, other than are you really communicating or listen to yourself talk, or is your mind on springtime, or as it should be on debentures? The question is, one, how much is enough in communications, whether it's verbal, written, and then I'd love to get into the weeds on the differences, but how much is enough? Are you communicating enough? Are you communicating too much? Are you communicating not enough? You can sink a ship by not communicating enough. You can sink the same ship by over communicating.
100%. But there are these
So
games,
the question
aren't
is,
there?
where's the balance? One,
Well,
you have to know the recipient or the audience. If you don't,
Mm-hmm.
the goose is cooked to begin with. Forget it.
Right.
You have to know who you're addressing, why, and then you need to figure out how and how much. Don't talk above anybody's head. Don't talk down to them.
Mm-hmm.
Speak with them, speak to them. That's even true when you are the Uber boss and you're down dressing an employee and you want to make your point forcefully. You want to lose that point? Go talk at them. It's just an angry boss talking at me. So how much is enough? Is enough a very, very fine balance. And as in everything else, allow me a mannerism. What is the most dangerous thing about an automobile? Is it 4,000 mindless pounds of steel flying at 60 miles an hour? Is it this incredible 600 horsepower engine had no clue what it's doing other than putting out power? Is it that the brakes may fail? Is it driving a bad road? Is it a rainstorm? No. The most dangerous thing about automobiles is a nut behind the wheel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So much the same way communication. If I'm going to communicate with someone, anyone, be that as a parking lot attendant, CEO of Fortune 5, I need to understand the nut behind the wheel. And that I know what I must say. I know that the recipient's tolerance for the subject matter, which will then define how I say it, the extent to which I invest emotion into it. And then I need to understand the goals of that person. And then their needs, wants, desires, etc. Can't satisfy their wants, but I have to satisfy the basic needs they have in a communication with me. Enough is enough. And also, one of the things that I need to learn, and I learn it every day because I love to talk, I love to engage, is in every communication, there's a point. And I was taught this by the best print salesman I've ever met in my life. There comes a point when you can just on-sell stuff. You need to pick up the cues, the verbal cues, the visual cues, the stuff in writing. When you say anything else, I say, I'm going to just on-sell this. Mm-hmm. Stop talking. You're done. You won, you lost, you achieved some goal. You need to know when enough is enough. And that just differs from everyone you communicate with, what the subject matter is, the methodology is. That's number one. You need to know when enough is enough and how to present it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you would like me to continue, I mean, I have a little list in my mind that I sort of focus on that all the time, in as much as we communicate all day long with people. And we do it individually, one-to-one, and we certainly do it on a mass market sort of basis.
Well, I'm just thinking of so many things, Steve. I'm thinking of so many things. You just got my brain. This topic is actually a very exciting topic, especially with social media that I know you're not massively keen on. But it's I've got to get my 2 pennies worth. It's a fascinating topic, and there's a video that I posted with these 2 gentlemen. One of them's like smoking weed and he's on the sofa and he's high. The other guy, right, I'm not condoning smoking weed, by the way, but the other guy is, I think, out and about, and he sends him a message and he gets this message and he says, yeah, whatever. So he's like, do you want to meet later? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Right. And the guy gets the message and he looks at it, he goes, what do you mean, whatever? And then he goes to the bar where he is with this baseball bat with like nails in the baseball bat, because they've completely disagreed over this thing. The guy who's at the bar, who's waiting for him, is like, oh, hey, really good to see you. And he's like, looks down. The guy's got this bat in his hand, and And it's just such a visual representation of like how you can like completely misconstrue what someone is doing, what they're thinking, the frame of mind they're in. There's so many things to this. That's why we're doing 3 of these, because
Well, that would be number 2 on my little list. Just so you know, about the guy on the couch and all of that. Funny enough, I will find myself in agreement with people I don't associate with. This is entirely irrelevant to this, but you're talking to the only one of my generation who's never gotten stoned or drunk. I have been sober my entire life. A friend of mine who's an uber brainiac, I don't know. He's got an MD and 2 PhDs, and I don't understand a word he says. But he does insist that I'm probably too insecure to get stoned. Well, insecurity is not something that creeps into my being much. But then I also say that anybody who says to me whatever, the next words out of my mouth is lose my phone number. There's no need for you and I to communicate. You can tell me I'm an ass. You can tell me a lot of things, but don't dismiss me. Now, the core thing you said is, it is remarkable for me to understand and realize that often we, you, them, well, you think you are communicating when you're not. Just because it's on your mind and you're clear, that doesn't mean you're messaging that properly. Just because you think you've said it and you said it comprehensively, adequately, that doesn't mean you have. Again, think about the other nut in the other car. A glaring problem. It just occurred to me in a conversation at way too early this morning. I think the sun was an hour or 2 away from coming up with a CEO who was really grousing about some issues, and he was wanting to know he should dismiss this other executive for non-performance. And I said, well, there's goals, budgets, and all of that. And this person performing to expectations or below. If it's more than below, you promote them. Below, you have to mentor them or dismiss them. And the core question was, he was just conducting an annual review of this executive. This is a big company. These are really hardcore business folks. They're not trivial people. And it came to a point when he looked at this senior VP divisional head, and he said, your biggest failure was this. You did not do this. And my guy says he was stunned. The recipient was stunned. And he took a deep breath and looked at his boss, the guy I'm talking, and says, Jack, I am certainly capable of doing that. You know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this job. But I had no idea that is something you wanted from me. Had you wanted it, the 100% certainty, I would have done that. Now, when my guy says, well, that's ridiculous. And his number 3 guy said, Jack, I had no idea there's something you wanted. And my guy says, well, he didn't know how to respond other than, well, you should have known. Okay. So I said, well, is that guy a hard worker? Oh, yeah. He puts in 70 hours a week, just like I do, maybe more. He is very productive, but what a terrible failure. I said, well, do you recall the time you told him that was a real expectation of him? You know what I should have known? Really? Yeah. Well, is that like a core thing in his job? You know, you put gas in the thing, you turn the key, use the brakes. No, but it's a big deal. Okay, here's a guy working 75 hours a week, meeting, succeeding, exceeding all his goals. He has leadership quality. He's also a phenomenal manager, has a massive team, outperforming expectations. And then you and he just failed because he didn't do something you did not communicate that he needed to do. He said, well, that's just, okay. I said, when was the last time you had an argument with your wife? What's that got to do with this? Well, just simple question. Well, we had little arguments. I said, how many of those were over when she looks at you and say, Jack, come on. You mean you didn't do that? You mean you didn't pick up my shoes? Well, that happens all the time. So are you an idiot? Your wife asks you, please, on the way home, pick up the shoes. And you don't? Oh, okay. Well, two things. Maybe she didn't tell you pick up the shoes, but you knew she really wanted them. Or she told you, and that's a communication went right by you because you're too busy, you're too important, you're out working hard and playing golf. How about communicating a little better? And when was the last time she said to you, you should communicate a little better with us, like me and the kids? And you said, are you kidding? I'm the king of communications. Well, guess what? You failed. So the point being, there's so much that goes on in your head. And you, at some point, make an assumption that, of course, doesn't everybody know that? Exactly. Steve Manning on, doesn't everybody know that? Mm-hmm. I remember some years ago, my wife, my uber smart wife, had built and was running a very substantial business. And they were having negotiations with one of the major retailers in the world. And it was grinding it out. And at some point, she said, this is actually easy. What I do is easy. Well, don't tell your clients that because they're from all over the world coming to you. Anybody can do this. This is easy. I said, okay, if anybody can do this, then we wouldn't need you. Then everybody else would be. So let's do the math. There are 5 of you in the U.S. that are really better at this than anyone else. So let's communicate to the client on the basis of we sit on a fairly hardy perch. We don't crow about it, but we don't walk away from it. Let's communicate the need of you client to come to us. And then we can satisfy your needs. Well, okay, so it's on your mind, but it's suppressed. How about express it? So much failing is on under communicating, over communicating. You need to find a balance. Again, it's about the nut behind the wheel.
Yeah.
You need to, whoever you're communicating with, you need to understand their needs, wants, desires. You cannot satisfy their desires. You can seldom desire their wants, but you need to consider and try to satisfy their needs. That's in how you communicate with them. And then that begets action. That's right.
That makes sense.
May not be the most cohesive statement you've ever heard, but I think it brings the point home.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you've shared so much valuable information in this conversation. I'm going to go back actually and listen to it probably twice to get it into my brain because it's taking things to the next level, right? And it's really the key to the keys to fixing these problems are in this conversation, because you've got to get to know what people expect from you, what state of mind they're in, and actually, if it is email, maybe you might want to put an emoji in your email to soften it. But if you can't write that well, you can always use one of these tools and actually get your email to be a bit more friendly, potentially, because actually that can be a big problem with people, because they can really take things personally when a lot of the time it isn't personal, it's factual, it's business, and I think jumping to conclusions, we all do it. We read a message and we're like, oh, and we read it and we're just annoyed. Generally, we're just annoyed anyway for no reason, just because we're busy. And like you say, when you're busy, you also make mistakes in communication, like massive mistakes. You can send an email, like you say, too quickly. That's why I love the Google Gmail. You can actually withdraw the message. So if you've pushed go and you're not finished, you can withdraw it. And I might even change. I think you can change the setting on that to be 5 minutes, but I need to check that. But I think you might be able to. I need to check.
I think that, first of all, communicating by email, which is so simple, I can tell somebody to buzz off in 5 words in 47 seconds. Boom, boom, I'm done. Okay, well, and then the bad stuff shows up. First of all, it's hard for most people to be nuantical in writing. One, it just is.
What do you mean?
The nuance of what you feel, what you're trying to say, is lost in your desire to be really efficient. Oh, this doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound like a lawyer wrote it. Okay, and then you screw it up, and then, and then you need to. First of all, to most writers, writing is rewriting. You write, you rewrite, and then when you get exhausted, you might be done. I don't particularly do that, but I don't do that. I
only with my work. You just do that when I've written something.
Well, that's because you're special. No,
special. For me, yeah, that's right.
I have my editor check for grammar and spelling, because courtesy of Microsoft, I can no longer spell dog. I used to be a champion speller, but now, hey, as long as Microsoft wakes up 1 minute before I do in the morning, I'm good. But little things, I mean, just let me share. A couple of years ago, I sat on the board of this company that we created, and we were sitting, just my best friend, our CEO, and I, in his office in Madison Avenue, New York. And then we had the company wanted to acquire another one in the same world. And we had a deal going, but not really. It was close, but not that close. And then we were about to walk away from it. Of course, we had a fiduciary responsibility to our stockholders. Unfortunately, our major stockholders included a couple large European banks. And good God, they were really supercilious people. Anyway, the point is that I'm sitting on a credenza and we're about to give it up, when an email comes across, and my best friend in life, our Uber chairman, says, check this out. It's an email from a partner at the largest M&A law firm in the country to someone talking about deal points for the same company with another buyer. Now, how did that come about? It was just an unfortunate autofill in an email address. They meant a different Kevin. This partner typed in Kevin. Okay. An hour later, of course, we now knew what the competition were into and what they were doing. And then we went back. There's a couple of ways this is going to work out. And of course, the way it worked out for us, I will not regale you that. It worked out rather well. In 2 hours, we did much better than ever acquiring the company. We never acquired the company. There was no point. But we knew what they were going to do, and then we facilitated that. And then this big firm did 5 years of free legal work for us. Now, I walked away from that saying, autofill is dangerous.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did, when I settled in my hotel room at 10 or 11 o'clock at night in New York, I reached out to a couple of tech guys in LA, and I said, I would like you to create a little program for me, which somehow you need to work it into Thunderbird, the email client I use. So when I write an email, in the subject line, I have to populate who I'm sending the thing to. So every email you get to me is a subject line, breakfast. Then the words to, T-O, : I have to fill in who I'm sending it to. So I go fill in Nathaniel Schooler. And of course, your name is right above that in who am I sending it to?
Right.
I visually said, oops, wrong Nathaniel. I had to do that because one lesson learned, man, that was one expensive lesson for this law firm.
Yeah.
But there are things, email is tricky. Make no mistake. You put stuff in there and you wish you could have taken it back. That would be the place. where I urge two things. Writing is rewriting. I write my emails and I put on my former Oakland Raiders football gear. Always takes 2 steps to the right before you take a step to the left. Otherwise, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And when I write that email that you need a fire extinguisher to read, it's on purpose. It's not because I'm angry. That's the message I want to convey. And then, without a doubt, I'm prompted to read it. And then when I'm going to do something that I believe has genuine consequences, very often I will take that email, often enough, and send it to my fine editor, my wife, who reads very critically my stuff, and say, would you get this a read? This is English, because I tend to English. I'm not a native speaker. This is English, 1, 2. Am I making my point? I'm just an angry guy yelling. Or this is what I'm really, bottom line, give me a bottom line. And I'll get back a kind response. Because she doesn't want me going off the deep end. But email is really tricky. Make no mistake. I love the part, draft an email. We have a conflict with a major publisher, and it's an amazing thing that the global senior legal eagle at this company, by the way, they're based in the UK, sends us a response that she will be away on holiday for 2 weeks, needs to get back to us, and we'll do so after January 15 or whatever the date was. And as I scroll down, right there is the email from her CEO to her saying, ooh, I thought this went away. This hasn't got away. We need to figure out how to fix it. Can you buy us some time? Can you send them an email to put this on the back burner for a couple of weeks while I have a meeting with this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy to try to come up with a resolution? You know, in my little world, you get fired. That's a danger. That's one dangerous email that to some extent will ensure a much better position for us. Because I already know, reading that CEO is concerned that they don't have a proper footing for the action. And what it is just a otherwise phenomenally qualified person just being loosey-goosey with the email.
Yeah. But we have to be careful, don't we?
Never be loosey-goosey with email, even if it's about a dinner date.
Yeah.
Remember, that stuff is there. It's in concrete. And you can't, when you write the next email saying, Nat, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it that way. How did you exactly mean it?
Yeah. It's awful to say that.
That awful. Little birdie flies away and ain't coming back.
Well, what we'll do is in the next week, we'll talk about email in more detail. And I think that'll be absolutely super. I mean, from where I'm sitting, there's so much to do with communication mistakes. You know, you can look at someone's face and like they might be moody based upon the mood they're in or the country they live in. I mean, here in Eastern Europe, people just look moody. They just look moody. And I've been here a long time and I look moody too now, right? So but I used to look moody anyway. So people kind of look at you and they think you're being moody, but actually it's just your face, right? Like you can't change your face. If you smile too much here, people are like, what the hell is he smiling at? What is she smiling at? You know? So I think there's a lot that we're going to cover in the next couple of weeks in this conversation. This could potentially turn into some sort of course, actually. You know, it's so vast, really.
When I created the direct response business in Eastern Europe, right when the Iron Curtain came down, too long a story, but you can read about it in my books. But anyway, and I walked into this brave new world where nobody had credit cards, and it took months to open a bank account, never mind taking money out. And I remember meeting with the head of the television network on this little country of 13 million people. And they wanted me to bring all this American content to them. By the way, it's a story we should talk about one day, is like Plato said, necessity is the mother of invention. And so I wanted to run something called an infomercial. Well, they all knew that because they traveled, but they're not available. The transmitters got shut down at 11 o'clock at night. So I said, well, can I buy an hour from 11 to 12? What do you mean? How much does it cost to keep them running another hour? So my first infomercial, I paid for power to run the generators. But I said, how come there are no locally generated game shows? They're all imported from Austria and Germany and France and Italy with subtitles. It's kind of silly looking stuff. And the man said, because we cannot get an audience to cheer wildly, and we can't get contestants to get excited. They just don't have it in them. And
I can believe that after being there.
Yeah, and I said to this man, I'm a little confused. So suppose we run a game show, and there's your contestant who's going to win the big refrigerator. You won the big refrigerator. And he said, the first thing you're going to do is they want to pull the car up with a rope and tie it to the roof of the car because they don't believe you. I remember the first time I gave away a car. It's like,
I'd love to hear some of these. We'll definitely dig into these sorts of stories. I mean, just to finalize this, I think from what I missed to say was actually never assume. Assumption is the biggest mistake that you can make. You need to extract information so then you can actually become more knowledgeable about the reaction that you're getting, and that's visible, but it's also verbal and via email. So we'll dig into this in the next one. Thank you, Steve, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And if you have not subscribed yet to mondayinfluencer.com, then you really need to, because it is helping so many people now to become more successful. We're really excited about it, and this podcast here is actually part of that now. So it's hugely exciting, and we're growing that each week. We've got some great testimonials, as you can see on the page, and we've got more amazing things that are coming along, including Ask Us Anything once a month. We do an Ask Us Anything, and you will get your business life questions answered by us and also our experts who we have on the team. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe, and wherever you prefer, share with your friends. And if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen.